This video contains the findings of a mini research project I conducted. The project was inspired by an article that Teaching Exceptional Children released early this year titled, "By the Book, Using Literature to Discuss Disability with Children and Teens," written by Kathleen Artman-Meeker, Thomas O. Grant, and Ziyan Yang. The article went into depth explaining 5 concepts that teachers should evaluate when considering a book that has an individual with a disability. These 5 questions address the portrayal of disability, family roles, cultural diversity, voice, and self-determination. It outlined these 5 concepts into a graphic organizer that teachers can use. I decided to put this chart to the test and find whether it would be something that I would use in the future and if it would be something that I would recommend to other teachers. So, I went to my public library and checked out all the picture books on the special needs shelf. I filled out the chart as I read each book and outlined my conclusions in the following videos. All My Stripes is about Zane, a young zebra with autism who comes home very upset and tells his mom all about his day and how hard it is to fit in at school. His mom encourages him to look past his autism stripe and look at all his other stripes that make him who he is. Zane learns that his autism stripe does not define him. I'd highly recommend this book in a classroom. Luke Has Down Syndrome is a book that follows a young boy named Luke who has Down syndrome as he goes through his day. It is one book written from the perspective of the person with the disability, though I'm not sure how much of it is actually Luke's words. Despite this fact, it has great information on Down syndrome, and I would recommend that it be included in a classroom library. Dustin's Big School Day is similar to Luke Has Down Syndrome, but it is not written from Dustin's perspective. It has great information about what a day for an individual with Down syndrome may look like, and it is very informative about Down syndrome in general. I would recommend that this be included in a classroom library. My Sister Leisha May is a book based on 2 real sisters. The book is written from the point of view of Rachel and is about life with her sister Leisha, who has Down syndrome. I'd recommend the book for a classroom because it does a great job acknowledging the difficulties of having a sister with Down syndrome, while focusing on the wonderful aspects of it. Catherine's story is about a dad challenging all the negative comments Catherine's cousin is making about her. Catherine has a type of epilepsy called infantile spasms. I would recommend this book because it does a really good job of shining a positive light on many of the challenges that Catherine and her dad experience. The Prince Who's Just Himself is about a royal family who gives birth to a prince with Down syndrome. I would not recommend this book for a classroom because the people of the kingdom do not accept the prince due to his disability until he performs a heroic act and saves the day. I feel that this sends the wrong message to children. My Brother Charlie is written from the perspective of Callie, a young girl whose twin brother has autism. The book does an excellent job of depicting both the struggles and blessings that come with having a brother with autism. It is beautifully written and illustrated, and I would recommend that this book be included in every classroom. Helping Sophia is about a class who takes turns learning how to push their classmate Sophia around in her wheelchair. Sophia is able to push herself in her wheelchair, but the teacher still has classmates do it for her. I would not recommend this book in the classroom because it does not promote self-determination for Sophia. We'll Paint the Octopus Red is about a young girl making plans about what she could do with her new brother. The second half of the book is about adjusting these plans when her brother is born with Down syndrome. I would recommend it for a classroom because it holds the idea that with patience, support, and care, her brother can do any of the things she imagined he can do. My Friend Has Dyslexia is about a boy who has a friend, Anna, who has dyslexia. It does an excellent job of explaining what it is and how it affects people who have it. This is a very common disability among many children. For this reason, and because the book does such a good job of explaining it, I would highly recommend that this book be included in every classroom. After reading through all 10 of these books, I found that 8 of the 10 would be books that I would want in my classroom. I also noticed some trends while doing this project. The first of which was that half the books addressed Down syndrome, while only 2 addressed autism. 1 was about dyslexia, another about epilepsy, and another about a physical disability. The second and most concerning trend I noticed was that Luke Has Down Syndrome was the only book out of all of them to be written through the perspective of the individual with the disability. And even in this case, I question how much of it was actually Luke's words, or how many of the words were just written through Luke's perspective from the author. So, why is this such a problem? I think that the article explains it best when it says that the lack of a prominent voice from characters with disabilities may reinforce the notion that people with disabilities are spoken for rather than speaking for themselves. This is something that I observed when working on this project. What do I mean by this? I'd use a chart and the questions it provides as a guide to base my decision off of. If I were to base my decision on a number of check marks and X's assigned, I'd be treating this question as if we're black and white, when in reality, it is not. It requires critical thinking skills beyond the original results. What do I mean by this? I'd use a chart and the questions it provides as a guide to base my decision off of. If I were to base my decision on a number of check marks and X's assigned, I'd be treating this question as if we're black and white, when in reality, it is not. It requires critical thinking skills beyond the original results. So in conclusion, I would encourage teachers to use this chart as a tool to decide whether or not a book including individuals with disabilities would be a good one to use in their classroom. However, I would caution them to go deeper beyond the questions posed and use their critical thinking skills to determine whether or not it is appropriate. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I hope you learned something today. If you are interested in learning more about any of the things discussed in this video, please be sure to refer back to the article I drew my information from. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd love to hear them. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.